Hey, everybody, and welcome to this episode of Hormonally Speaking. I'm super excited and happy today to have my guest. Her name is Phyllis Frempong, and I actually reached out to her to be on this show because she is known as the Fibroid Queen. So, of course, I follow her on Instagram because, I'm about all things fibroids since having dealt with my own fibroid fiasco. So, I really wanted to talk to Phyllis about um, what we do when 80 to 90% of women end up having a fibroid, and so many of us don't even realize or know that that's going to happen until it does. So before we jump in with her, I just want to tell you a little bit about her. So she's a speaker, registered nurse, fibroids advocate, certified fitness and yoga coach. She develops programs that focus on hormonal issues and concerns women face every day, using a holistic approach to wellness and personal growth, using a proven system that combines yoga, fitness, and nutrition. Phyllis is one of the 90% of women affected by fibroids by the age of 50. She knew her calling was to empower and educate women suffering fibroids holistically as a fibroid queen. She reserves her quarterly womb wellness events in efforts to spread awareness, fibroid awareness. Phyllis has gained attention in Voyage Houston Mag, inspiring stories as a hidden gem, and a few local radio show appearances. Phyllis was raised in Bolingbrook, Illinois, and currently lives in Houston, Texas. She graduated from Governor State University with a bachelor in nursing. She has a passion for serving as a mentor and coaching others to live the life that they are destined for. So welcome, Phyllis.
Oh my God. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm so excited that you're here. So to me, as I mentioned to you before we jumped into this call, I think when we end up doing this kind of work that is so close to our heart, it's because we have a story behind that, a personal
Yes.
story. And, of course, you mentioned in your bio that you are one of the women that has faced fibroids. So can you tell us a little bit about your story and, what you went through when you first found out about having a fibroid?
Yeah. So my story starts about 11 years ago. And that was right before nursing school, or actually right at the beginning of nursing school. So I just got in and I went in for just a regular womb wellness checkup. And going there, this story always stuck with me. And as a child, I remember my mom going through bouts of pain and suffering, and she didn't really talk about it. And then one day I see her come in, from being out. And she said she was at the hospital because she got surgery. And I remember asking her why. She was like, I had fibroids. I got half of my uterus removed. So
Wow.
she ended up getting a partial hysterectomy. I was at least 10, 11 years old.
Mm,
So that story and that experience always stuck with me. So whenever I was, when it came to mind at that time, going into nursing school, I was like, let me just make sure I don't have it. So I told the
mm,
doctor, you know what, can I request for an ultrasound? The doctor questioned me, like, why do you want an ultrasound? You're just
mm.
getting a pap smear. And I'm like, well, my mom had fibroids. I just want to make sure I don't have it. And Lord and behold, the results came back, and I had a quarter size fibroid
Okay.
on my uterus.
How
So
old were you at the time?
I was 23, 24.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
you're
yeah,
young. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, and they
absolutely.
never would have checked you otherwise because of your age.
Oh
Yeah,
no, oh
yeah.
no. And and the classic symptoms is, at that age is, with your periods, is pain and heavy bleeding, and it was just the norm.
Yeah.
So for me to ask that, something was in me, like to do that, and I'm just so
Mm,
glad I did, because it takes me here from that time. So yeah.
yeah. So what did you do when you found out that you had one, considering you knew what your mom had gone through with them?
So honestly, I was in denial. I didn't believe it. I was just like, oh, okay, and that, at that, my mindset then wasn't really focused on that. I was in nursing school. I was focused on finishing and, not, failing,
Hmm.
knowing
Right.
the intensity of the program. So I took the doctor's advice, and she was like, oh, just monitor it. Don't worry
Mm,
about it. So that exactly did. So I
mhm.
went through nursing school, stressed. I actually got stress-induced anxiety due to just the intensity of the nursing
Yeah,
curriculum.
yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I moved out of my parents' house, so that was another huge role for me. So all of that caused a lot of um, just a lot of build up emotion and stress that I never experienced,
Mm-hmm.
where I literally would try to just stay up for 24 hours so I can
Mm.
study and not sleep. So I was high off a monster Red Bull.
Right.
Um, I landed in the hospital twice due to panic attacks.
Wow. Yeah, it's crazy, right? It's like you're going to school to help people. And then you're like, but I have to put myself through this whatever pain and anguish to get there. Yeah. Put my health in the process.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
So, and then I ended up graduating with flying colors. But after, graduating, I was 30 pounds heavier and just emotionally not myself. I just knew there
Mm-hmm.
was something wrong. I didn't know exactly what it was. So I went back to the doctor just to get a checkup. And then I was working two jobs as a nurse, stressed, overnight shift, and just going job to job. That was just my life.
Mm.
So I had a checkup, and the doctor said, "You know what, Phyllis, you're in your 20s. You're high cholesterol."
Mm-hmm.
So now that, Christine, was a awakening for me. It wasn't the
Mm.
fibroids; it was the
Mm-hmm.
high cholesterol.
Mm-hmm.
So my mindset changed a little bit after nursing school. So I decided to join a gym
Mm-hmm.
and start taking some action. And like, I'm looking to help people, as you just said, and not be the one that's needing the help in the hospital. So
Mm-hmm.
I joined the gym, and then I met a friend, and long story short, she introduced me to her friend who was a bodybuilding coach.
Mm.
So long story, and again, it was a lot to that, but it was so dynamic because how we connected. Because she told me, "Not Phyllis, why don't you compete?" I'm like,
Mm.
yeah, right. Look at me. Do I
Right.
look like I can compete half naked on stage as a bikini model? Right? Like, are you
Mm-hmm.
serious? So she was like, "Yeah, just think about it." So I thought about it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I asked myself, like, what if? One thing about me is that I'm very driven. I knew that about myself. And I'm like, what if I just called this lady, this coach,
Mm-hmm.
bodybuilding coach, and join her program? What would happen?
Mm-hmm.
So I did. So
Mm-hmm.
a week later, I ended up contacting her. I joined the program. And I tell you what, I dropped 35 pounds, lean, toned, and I was competing on
Nice.
stage.
Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah, so I tell you, that energy that I felt on that
Mm.
stage, I was like, I want to do this again
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
again. So after 4 years, I was like, just imagine if I can help someone else feel this
Mm.
way. So
Mm-hmm.
I decided to become a personal trainer.
Mm. Okay.
I became a personal trainer, started coaching other women and men on how to get fit.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and did that for a while. I realized coaching was my passion. And I realized about myself that I was very easily fed with the energy
Mm-hmm.
around, whether it be people or my environment. I easily was sensitive to that, and I didn't realize how sensitive I was.
Mm-hmm.
So I was coaching, I was working as a nurse,
Mm-hmm.
and I was working out to continue to compete.
Mm-hmm.
And after a while, that wasn't fun anymore.
Yeah, I can imagine. It's a lot.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that wasn't fun. So I decided that I did not want to compete anymore
Mm-hmm.
because it was just a job. And
Mm.
I also started to become very unhappy. I
Mm.
just didn't know what it was. Just a lot of emotional disease.
Mm-hmm.
It was a residual of anxiety and just other things. So I kept going and just kept doing that schedule. And after a while, I started to not like going into my nursing job. I was just not happy there.
Mm-hmm.
And 2017, I was in a relationship with a guy who lived in Hawaii. And that was already a struggle with me living in Houston.
Mm-hmm.
He was living in Hawaii. And I felt like I was just needing more of that man to, cultivate my feelings because the way I felt about myself at the time.
Mm.
And I wasn't getting that.
Mhm.
So it made me even more emotionally drained, where I took a trip um, January of 2017 to go visit him.
Mhm.
And that was my revelation. We were walking on the beach and holding hands. It was a nice, beautiful day, the breeze and everything. And suddenly I went out. I blacked out.
Oh, whoa.
And yeah, I I came back to awareness and I was about 20 feet in front of him. And he looks at me and starts laughing. He's like, "Where are you going?" We're on the beach. You were walking like you had to be somewhere.
Mm.
And that was my moment of, you know what? I'm headed down a dark path.
Mm. Mhm.
So he said to me, "You know what? You need to relax. When you get back to Houston, you should join a yoga class or something
Mm.
because you just lost it." And that's what I did. So
Mm.
I got back, started going to yoga. I didn't really like it. I couldn't get into it.
Yeah.
And then
Not a lot of people are in the beginning, right? Especially if you're used to working out pretty hardcore. People are like, "Oh God, yoga's so boring." Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. So it was like after a couple of weeks, I started to be able to relax and get into it.
Mhm.
And then after a month of going consistently, I actually started to enjoy it and notice subtle effects with my reaction to things.
Mhm.
And I noticed that I was a little bit more happier. It was just
Mhm.
very little nuances. And I started journaling. And then when I journal, every so often I'll go back and look. And I noticed that I was actually reacting differently to things. I was like getting better.
Mhm.
So yoga became my new thing.
Mhm.
And then I was like, I'm actually liking this yoga journey.
Mhm.
I'm like, what if I can help others feel this way?
Mhm.
And I was like, you know what? I'm going to become a yoga teacher. So I went to go get certified and I became a yoga instructor. And I tell you, I am living my best life. I feel that 2017 was not only a year of my awareness, it was a
Mhm.
year where my fibroid condition got worse. It
Mhm.
actually relapsed. So I went from a quarter size fibroid to having four fibroids.
Mm. Mhm.
I noticed that my urinary frequency increased
Mhm.
and just a lot of other things. So I look back on my life and I say, you know what? While I was competing, there was no sign of fibroids. I was at my
Mm.
best state. I was feeling good. All of a sudden, when I went through that emotional drain,
Mhm.
my fibroid condition relapsed where they grew even more.
Mhm.
So now I'm looking that my fibroid condition is getting better. I went from four fibroids to now three. One,
Nice.
yes,
Mhm.
one calcified. And what that means is like it lost blood supply. So the fibroid kind of just, I had a period with it. And
Mm. Mhm.
on the ultrasound, it shows as if there's a scar. And
Mm.
I was told there was calcification that happened.
Interesting.
So
Okay.
I feel all of this happened in a mirror of how I was living my life.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
when I look back and where I am now, I want to really take my whole life journey, my experience, my background as a nurse, fitness, and yoga coach, and really pour it into women that
Mhm.
are dealing with this condition. Because
Mhm.
if I was able to make those changes with fitness and then doing some mindset coaching for myself with
Mhm.
self development, and
Mhm.
then going on my yoga journey, and then my background, my medical background as a nurse, put that in a little blender
Mhm.
and mix it up and really feel purposeful for my life and help others
Mhm.
conquer not only fibroids, but get themselves back and live the life that they want to live. Why not?
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
yeah, that's pretty much from that point, being diagnosed to kind of where I am now.
Where you are
Yeah.
now. So let's jump into some of the things that you feel like, helped with diminishing your fibroids and calcifying, like in terms of like when you work with women, what kinds of foods, what kind of maybe fitness regimens or goals do you set with them, lifestyle stuff. So let's talk about each of those.
Yeah, good question. So my program combines fitness, yoga, and nutrition, but to break it down, fitness is a way for to lower your body fat,
Mm-hmm.
because estrogen is a female hormone that we all have. But when you have fibroids, you have an excessive amount of estrogen. Either you're not eliminating it like you should, or with your liver, something, going off with that, or you're producing too much. So body fat, to a degree, plays a huge role in feeding the fibroids with estrogen, which is like food for it. So lowering your body fat is a goal that I do with women. That way they have less symptoms, they're feeling more confident about themselves. When you have fibroids, you have a hormonal imbalance. So you're up and down sometimes with your emotions, and exercising can help stabilize that and lower your body fat so that it can decrease the symptoms and help your fibroids heal. So that's the fitness portion of it. And the fitness portion also includes fibroid-friendly workouts. And I say this because, with having fibroids, your belly is very sensitive, especially, depending on how big they are. So my fibroid-friendly workouts are really catered to women who have fibroids, where the focus is on breathing, visualization, and awareness. That way you can connect with what you're doing and take your stress off having fibroids, but being able to mentally focus on if you did not have them. And sometimes that mind and body connection can push you a little bit further to do more. So that's the
Absolutely.
fitness part. Yeah, thank you. And then the nutrition part is more of eating with a purpose. So I remember just drinking Red Bull, grabbing whatever I can get, and that contributing to my 30-pound weight gain of unhealthy eating. I look back on that, and now I, really eat with intention. Eating this sandwich, how is it going to fuel my body? How is it going to help me heal? So being intentional with your eating, and I help coach women to be more intentional, especially with our emotions. We want to eat whatever's in sight and find comfort in that. But if you shift your mindset on healing your body, and eating things that are going to fuel you and make you feel good, it allows you to make conscious decisions. And the fibroid diet consists of plant-based. So I encourage my women to do cleanse, where they do pick, a week out in the month, they'll do a cleanse. So it's just mainly smoothies they would have. And a lot of the smoothies do have beets in it. And beets is a vegetable that really helps with so many things, like your iron levels, your energy levels. And then
Your liver, such a good
liver.
liver, support.
Yes, absolutely. And we tend to stay away from soy, dairy, processed foods, meat, um, and wheat and gluten. So the fibroid diet does consist of that. At the same time, for me, I like to have fun. I cannot eat a fibroid diet for the rest of my life.
Right.
But I am living a intentional life of doing things that help me. So I follow the 80-20 rule. And that's what I tell the women as well is, what, if you want to have, fries and a margarita, do it, do it, but do it, at a moderation, 80-20 rule.
Right.
80% is fibroid diet, 20% live life.
Right.
Right.
And I always have to remind people, I'm like, moderation doesn't mean like one alcoholic drink a day. you know, like
Exactly.
moderation is, it could, you kind of have to, you know, let people know a little bit sometimes what moderation looks like. Yeah, it's like, okay, we're
Yeah.
looking over, you know, this span of time, not just trying to, you know, being like balance. I had kale smoothie in the morning and I had a margarita at
Mhm.
night. Yeah.
Exactly. Yes. Yes. You're definitely right. You know, being like specific of, you know what, during a week, 80% of the time, you're going to be good,
Hmm.
you know?
Hmm.
So, um, and so that's what consists of the fibroid diet. And
Hmm.
then the yoga portion is really all about self-love and
Hmm.
self-care. So via yoga, finding a way to connect with yourself internally,
Hmm.
where you're able to recognize your self-worth. And
Hmm.
that, I feel like, played a huge role in my progression of my fibroids at one point, is
Hmm.
not really caring for yourself
Hmm.
from the inside out.
Yeah.
And hence the word, you know, queen, fibroid queen,
Mm-hmm.
is literally treating yourself like a queen.
Mm-hmm.
And once you do that, everyone else is going to follow. And that respect goes hand in hand.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
fitness, yoga, nutrition, they all, you know, are like a dual effect,
Mm-hmm.
but significance where in the program, they develop a little bit at a time to become their best self by the end
Yeah.
of the program.
Nice. Yeah. And I'm so glad, I love that about the queen portion, because I think we constantly, you know, kind of overlooked that aspect, and the importance of really seeing our self-worth. You know, it's like, because it's kind of easier to look at, okay, here's the physical things I can do, here's the dietary things I can do, but really it's that, you know, what are the emotional, mental self-worth aspect that is key to underlying, I'd say, like the energetics of fibroids a lot of times, right?
Exactly.
And so it's,
Exactly.
that's as important, if not more important, than all the other things too. And I think
Right.
it can be hard for people to wrap that, you know, wrap their brains around that sometimes. So I love that you do that focus. So, you know, I know that Black women and women of color tend to have fibroids even more often. I know that, you know, some of the statistics say 90% of Black women, while it's 80% of white women, will end up having a fibroid by the time they're 50. So what are your thoughts about that?
Good question, Christine. And I'm so glad that you are, you know, you touching on this, because it's really growing at an alarming rate. And I feel like it had, you know, years ago. I mean, it may have the food
Mm,
have played may have played a huge role in the
mm,
stress and
mm-hmm.
the lifestyle back
Yeah.
hundreds of years ago.
Yeah,
May have just
absolutely.
been repeated. And I feel like genetically and lifestyle, in regards to more environment,
Mm,
plays a huge role
mm,
in why I feel that Black women are more susceptible. I
mm-hmm.
feel that we are not, well, I feel that we're repeating the same behaviors, the same type of lifestyle that our, you know, grandparents or
Mm,
ancestors have done.
mm,
And there hasn't been um, a stop. There hasn't been awareness on that part of it.
mm,
Um, I also feel that um, women of color, when it comes to heavy periods and pain, like it's the norm.
mm-hmm.
I feel that we are already um, women of color, and we have different positions,
Mm-hmm.
different expectations, and some may feel like, you know what, I'm supposed to be taking all this pain. I'm
Mm,
supposed to be fighting for my position. I'm supposed to be, you know, suffering with periods. This
mm,
is life,
mm-hmm.
and I feel that that has a lot to do with it. And then I was reading some statistics showing that, you know, women that have been emotionally suffering with whether it be anxiety, depression, something traumatic happening to them early on,
Mm-hmm.
um, are more at risk. And, you know, sometimes that is in a certain demographic.
Yeah, yeah.
And also, I feel that when it comes to awareness. People of color as a whole I feel, are at a vulnerable position. So,
Mhm.
acting on different things, we're just not there yet. So a
Right.
combination of all that.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that makes sense. And I know, a study came out just within the past couple years of our medical system in general not believing Black people's pain. And I think it was maybe
Yeah.
even Black women specifically as much as white women, And so it's like you have that to run up against too, even if, if you do know that this may be a thing happening. And it's like getting believed, getting the ultrasounds, getting all that done in our medical system. So it's, yeah, multi-layered for sure. So thank you for speaking to that. I think
Yeah.
it's really important that people, get that and get all those layers. So since we are, kind of talking about our medical system, I kind of jumped into that. As people know by now, you're a registered nurse, and so, I'm just curious how you kind of combine these two worlds, which I think is great. By the way, I think we need to do that, but I know it's not always easy to integrate sort of the allopathic path and the holistic path. So how does that kind of work out for you?
I think what bridges it, Christine, is that I'm living the journey with the queens, with
Mm,
the ladies. I'm on the journey with them.
mhm, mhm,
So, I regard myself as, um, you know, that coach, that sis,
mhm,
that
mhm,
advocate. But at the same time, I'm with you. I'm
mhm,
totally with you.
mhm,
And I feel that as a nurse, that nurturing part of me, and that as a coach, that let's do it, that
mhm,
journey part of me. But I am a person.
mhm,
I do have emotions too, and learning to be um, open and transparent was a hard thing for me. Growing up, I wasn't very expressive. I kept
mm,
everything in,
mm, mhm,
hence the anxiety. But now that I've been open with it, and I see more and more women that have this,
mhm,
I'm starting to just embrace this and feel so much more better.
mhm,
I'm getting so much more positive vibes,
mhm,
and so being able to remind myself of, you know what, just as if you were in another woman's shoes that's suffering, how
mhm,
would you be?
mhm,
And that's how I proceed every consultation that I have with them,
mhm,
every opportunity that I have, that I am a person too, and I have emotions. So,
mhm,
regard them as that. And
mhm.
it's been working.
Do you find that a lot of your clients will, maybe talk to you about the surgical, options around fibroids, along with, being open to trying to, shrink them or diminish them holistically?
Good question. Well, I do approach it where I'm open to hearing both point of views.
Mhm,
I
mhm,
am on, the more of the natural route, but I am
mhm,
also an advocate for women as a
mm,
whole.
mhm,
So I am open to leading them and guiding them to make an informed decision.
mm, mhm,
I
mhm.
just feel like there's a lack of communication between the doctors and, um, the women about their options and
Yeah,
what they can do, and
and the
not
possible
just
complications. I'll tell you that from my perspective.
yeah,
Yeah. Mhm.
exactly. And knowing that there's no cure for it.
Right.
And, it's like, knowing that, what if I want to do this, or if I want to do that?
Mhm,
And them being well aware of that. I just feel
mhm,
like there's just a lack of awareness from the doctors passing the information, or from even the woman even knowing what to ask. So
mhm,
I do feel that me being a nurse, I'm able to go through their labs with them and answer questions that they may have. And if
mhm.
it's beyond my scope, I do partner with a holistic doctor,
Oh,
a
cool.
Dr. Fisher, and she does consult with me on this program. So that way, if they're not comfortable asking their doctor about questions about this, they have this, a holistic alternative to ask as
That's
well.
awesome. That's really cool. So I'm going to ask one more question because I get asked this a lot. So I have to ask you. Um, when a fibroid is, say, like 10 centimeters or bigger, do you think at that point that it can be shrunk? Do you,
Good
like, I know
question.
that's a big one to ask, but I was like, I'm going to go for
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yes. And I do say if you give the body what it needs,
Mhm.
it will heal itself. I do
Mhm.
believe that.
Mhm.
I also believe you have to do what works for you. So for
Mhm.
me, my largest fibroid was at almost 10 centimeters at one
Okay.
point,
Okay.
but
Wow.
it's at 7 now.
Nice.
So I do feel that it can
Yeah.
shrink. I feel that your symptoms can
Yeah.
dramatically improve. I am a living testimony of that.
Yeah.
Um, and I
Yeah.
also feel that if your fibroid is, 9, 10 centimeters, how much pain are you having?
Mhm.
How is it affecting your life? Do you feel that you need to get them out ASAP? Do you
Mhm.
feel that you know all the risks? Do you feel that you want children and you're aware of scar tissue? Or do you feel that you can patiently change your lifestyle
Mhm.
and kind of see and give your body an opportunity to heal itself and see what happens.
Mhm.
So those are
Mhm.
the questions I usually ask, like what end are they at? And
Mhm.
then I guide them from that. I try not to sway them either direction. I
Mhm.
just want to be there for them and make sure they are making a decision that they are well aware of.
Yeah, that's great. And I appreciate you saying, specifically that you had a 10 centimeter one that went down to 7 centimeters, because I've definitely found with my clients, that making a lot of the changes that you kind of talked about, that the symptoms of fibroids can diminish pretty quickly, the actual symptoms, but the size may take some time, and
Exactly.
so especially when they are larger. And so it's not always easy to find women that are like, yeah, actually it did shrink. And I know that, and so thank you for getting specific about that, because I think that's really important for people to hear too, that it truly is
Yeah.
possible. So, well,
Yes.
tell us about, I know you have a program going on right now and some other cool things, happening. So tell us about what's going on.
Yeah, so I have a program. It's a Conquer Fibroids online coaching program. So what I do, it's a 3-month program, and I literally coach you on how to live beyond fibroids. Like no longer letting fibroids control your life. So
Mhm.
coming out of that program, you may heal from fibroids, you may get symptom relief,
Mhm.
but you guaranteed will be educated and know
Mhm.
how to manage your care. So I give
Nice.
no promises. I
Yeah.
feel that coming into this program, you're going to be able to know how to get out of feeling on that emotional roller coaster. You're going to learn how to eat. You're going to learn how to really take control of your life and
Mhm.
live the life that you want.
Mhm.
So you throughout the program, they do get the opportunity to have a good consultation with the doctor,
Mhm.
and I usually have calls with them every week, and they're part of a Facebook group, a community of other women like them,
Mhm.
and it's just amazing. So I have a waiting list going on right now, and
Okay.
that way women who are looking to really heal naturally and get that advocacy, they can come on board and be on that waiting list and get the help that they need.
So should they just go to your website to get on the waiting list? And what is your website?
So my website is fibroidqueen.com.
Perfect. Easy. Yeah. And I'll put that in the show notes so people can just click on it too. That's awesome. Thank you so much for the work that you're doing. I think that it's really important. And, as I mentioned earlier, I feel like a lot of women don't know about fibroids until they actually have them. And yet they're so
Right.
pervasive, as we know. And so I think, the work that you're doing in the world is just super important, especially, if women do start sort of getting it a little earlier, like in their
Yeah.
20s, 30s and that kind of thing, and then can really, keep from growing these massive fibroids by making some of these changes in their lives too. I wish I had known,
Yeah.
and understood when I was younger. So, yeah, exactly. So, but here we are, right? So, well, thank you so much for being here with me today.
Yes, I appreciate you so much. One thing I love about you is that, you're totally with the women helping women.
Yeah.
And that is so amazing because one of the other things is that, my mission is to impact millions or as many women as possible
Hmm.
to be aware of this condition and help the next woman.
Hmm.
Because, what research, what um, studies are being done about currently what's going on with this epidemic. The environment,
Mm-hmm.
It's being estrogen friendly. Like, what is going
Yeah.
on? So getting out there, reaching out to women like you reached out to me, and hoping that more awareness, more research is done to really bring this into people's focus.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Absolutely. All right, you guys, thanks so much for being here for another episode of Hormonally Speaking, and I will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.